What's up, guys? We got another video today, Jeff Fabiano, and it's called a first look of NASCAR Heat 4. He actually ran a full race at Homestead. Okay, I saw the video. I loved it. I'm gonna talk a little bit about some of what I consider the main points. I'm gonna try to keep this video a little shorter than I usually do. I know I've been really dragging these videos on longer than they need to be. I really can't help myself. I think that's something I've been wanting to try to pull back on, but I don't know. I'm a very real talky person, and once I start talking about things, something else will pop up in my head, and then I go into that, and so that's just something that I have a difficult time doing. So I hope you guys don't mind that these videos always seem to be longer than they need to be. I'll keep trying to do better. So I want to get into the details of the video. He goes through the menu. You're gonna see how deep and involved this menu really is. That's really good because you can really tailor this game to anybody's liking. Whatever, not just your skill level, but just the type of experience you want to have, the even the frequency of mechanical failures for the AI, you can control that. Um, the stability, um, the skill range is if the difference between the top drivers and the guys who aren't as good or not driving in the best equipment. That's going to spread out more, and that helps spread the field out, which is realistic, right? There's going to be people that you expect to see in the back, running in the back, and the faster cars, yeah, they should pull away. So that helps spread the field out. There is one thing in the AI settings that I'm going to mention again later because I think it had a big impact on the way this race turned out. So I would say almost everything impressed me. But there is one issue that did stand out to me, and it is concerning, but I'm not going to go crazy about it because I do think it has a lot to do with all of these settings in the menu. It's going to take trial and error before you find the kind of experience you want. And that's great. That's what you want. You want options. But the one thing that did stand out to me about the entire race, it did seem a little too easy. He set the race at 105 at the highest setting, right? So it's supposed to be, the most challenging. And it just looked to me throughout the race, that was the one complaint I had. It did seem too easy for him. But when you go back and you look at all the settings, the way he set the race, you can kind of understand why, he was able to pass so many cars throughout the race. It looked pretty easy for him. And even once he got to the front and he made the pass for the lead, he was off. He was gone. And then they had several restarts at the end, and each time he was able to pull away and just continue to pull away. We do see that in real life, right? The fastest cars, they get out front, and then sometimes they get a good restart and they're just gone. But when you see at the end of the race, his overall speed rating was only 98, and that does concern me. It did seem too easy, and it wasn't like his speed rating was high. So I went back and I looked and I seen all the things he checked off, and I do see a couple of different areas where I'm pretty sure that's what affected the overall uh, difficulty of the race, or the challenge, I should say. Um, he had the tire wear effect on the AI. See, this is one thing before I go. Here I go stretching the video, but I have to explain everything I'm talking about. In the settings, what's different this year, on top of having all of these extra options, is the player settings and the AI settings are completely different. So just because you can set your settings at a certain point, it doesn't affect the AI. The AI have their own settings. So if you put like 2 times tire wear, which is what he did, that's not that doesn't really seem to affect the AI. They have their own tire wear settings, which is good, right? You want more options, but it also means there's a, a bigger learning curve. You really do have to kind of go through a trial and error. And like after watching this race, I would go back and play with the settings again. So with the AI, there is tire wear effect where you have an option of more effect, less effect. So more effect means that the tires wear out, uh, or the car slows down more as the tires wear, and less effect would be they kind of maintain more of a higher speed even when the tires are wearing. Doesn't mean they don't experience tire wear, but it does seem like they worked a lot on the tire model, and it's almost like it can be overboard. I noticed with the other gameplay videos that after only 4 or 5 laps, the tire wear does seem like it really wears off excessively. Again, they might have had it at a higher setting or whatever. So Fabiano chose to go with 2 times wear, right? So we know we have all the way up to 4 times tire wear. I don't think anyone in this game is going to be running 4 times tire wear. I think it really does grind the tires down. And after only a few laps, the car is not going to have anything. Uh, I think 3 times tire wear is gonna be something a lot of people use. And then even looking at this race, 2 times tire wear, especially longer races, I think is the way to go. That might be what I'm gonna do. But with the AI, the tire wear effect, I think it would have been better if he went with less effect, because on restarts, he passed a lot of cars, and it was really easy. I think that had something to do with it. Also, a lot of those cars did stay out and under caution and didn't change tires. So even though he restarted at the back, he had fresher tires. So there's a pro and a con to everything. I like seeing that, if they stay out on old tires, they're going to pay the penalty for that, right? That's realistic. But I do think if you don't have the settings just right, it will be kind of overdone. And that's what I saw here today. Again, the the vast majority of what I saw today was extremely positive. It's just this one thing that does concern me, and I do think it has to do with the options. It just overall it was a pretty easy race for him. And maybe he set it up purposely that way to show you, his charge to the front and win. Obviously you want to see the win and the burnout and all that stuff. But yes, I would have definitely, go back and play with the AI settings, and like make the tire wear a little less effective. And just there's other stuff too that you can play with. So I love all of that stuff. But that was my one concern, and I'm sure that you can play with that. I will keep an eye on it though for in any future videos. I do want to see more of a challenge. I will say this, that driving the car itself, obviously very challenging, and you could tell he was having to play with the throttle and the wheel. It was a handful, and as the tires wore, you could tell the difference. Those of you guys who are really, focused on the physics and worried about it, I'm telling you, this is nothing like last year's game. And even he reiterated what I've been saying, there is going to be a learning curve. If you've spent a lot of time on NASCAR Heat 3, you're not going to be able to just jump in this game and just, the cars just really overdrive the car. You can't do that this year, which is really good. Also, I think this is going to be a huge plus for online racing. I think that it's going to help separate the men from the boys. A lot of these players online, they're very low skilled, but yet they can overdrive the car. They can kind of keep up with better drivers and kind of ruin the race because of the physics. And now, if you're not that skilled, you're going to fall back. You're not going to be able to keep up with people who have more skill. That's a huge positive. I think this is going to be really good for multiplayer esports, pro leagues, they're gonna love this stuff. Even though you guys know I don't really care as much for online racing, I will try it, and I do like to dip my toe in it once in a while, just for kicks. But it's always been such a negative experience, and this isn't going to resolve all the issues of online racing, but it's a big step forward. It's good to see that guys that aren't that skilled aren't going to be able to just make life miserable for guys who are more skilled. They're just going to pull away. And yeah, you're still going to have all the major problems that online racing just inherently has. But it's good to know, like, uh, if you have skill, you're going to be able to pull away and show what you got. So this is going to be really good for online and these esports and all and the leagues and all that stuff, which I'm sure is why 704 focused so much on redoing the whole physics model. And it looks great, and it's really paying dividends. It looks good for offline, online, everything. I'm gonna have a lot of fun with this game. So the physics, man, I really think those of you who care about physics, you should be excited. The cars look more grounded. Uh, you don't, it just doesn't look like it's floaty on the track. It just, he really had to play with the throttle the whole time, and you could notice, as the tires wore that, yeah, it was, he couldn't drive it the same. The AI, uh, let me just tell you, the things that I've been beating to death for the past couple of years, um, mostly the sound and the AI, really have been things that I've been preaching. Uh, this is why I'm so excited about this particular game this year, because this is the first time I felt like this game is being pushed in a direction almost as if I was there and I was in charge and they were listening to me. It's like I'm at these meetings and I'm saying, listen, guys, you got to get the AI to spread out, run different lines, have more of a personality, not just run on rails. Um, you got the sound has to sound authentic. This is a NASCAR game, man. That the sound needs to be right up there with everything else in terms of importance. And it sounds like they walked out of a meeting and they were listening to me. That's what it feels like. That's why I'm so excited, because I'm finally starting to see things that I've been preaching about. And the sound, man, it just doesn't get old. And the visuals, the graphics have really surprised me this year. I didn't think they could get it to where it looks now. And I'm gonna put the video in the description box, the link to the video. Um, I want you guys to pay attention to the moment that he goes to the race and the car is in the pits before he fires up the engine and everything like that. I think it's in just before the race, and you see the cars in practice. He's parked in the pits and he's talking, and you can hear the cars going around the track, but from a stationary view, right? Not while he's on the track, but he's in the pits and he's waiting to start. You know, you hear the cars going around the track and you see them going around the track. It looks and sounds like a TV presentation, like you're watching practice. If you've ever watched practice on TV and you hear the cars going around the track and somebody, let's say, is in the pits or in the garage, that's what it looked and sounded like. That blew me away. I love stuff like that. It's this attention to detail that really elevates the experience. And it really sounded like real cars going around the track. It like you were watching a live presentation on TV. And it just shows you the potential of what could they do if and when they dive into presentation. There's so much potential here. It makes me excited. So I want you guys to pay attention to that. And when you watch the race, uh, it really does look and sound authentic. In-car cam, I love it. The sound is different depending on the camera angle. There is reverb even in the sound menu. You could toggle that, and that's when the car is right up against the wall. You get this reverb, which is like kind of this echoey, the sound bouncing off the wall. All authentic, realistic, and it's you are going to finally see the effect of the things that I've been preaching about for years. And now you're going to see it, you're going to feel it, you're going to say, wow, this is awesome. It looks and sounds amazing. It sounds realistic. And I've been telling you guys, this is going to elevate the experience. It looks like a game that's just fun, just to race, just to be in the car and actually uh, take a few laps. It's going to have a whole new level of excitement and immersion to it. And that's what these things do. And I really feel um, vindicated in some sense that the things I've been telling you guys they need to work on, it's going to make a huge impact. You can see it. Now, even though I said, yes, it was easy, the race for him, and I do think it has a lot to do with all of these settings. You're going to have to play with these things to get it just right. And I do think that, uh, like the tire wear on the AI had a big effect on the fact that he could pass these guys too easily, right? There's just a lot you can do. I'm not worried about that. But even watching the race, I saw a lot of really good things. The AI, they did exactly what I've been begging for these guys to make them do: run different lines, spread out. It looked realistic the way they spread out, the way they ran different lines. You saw specific cars running a specific line, and then 2 laps later, they're running up top. Or the guy that was running up top, now he's running the bottom. You did see cars kind of battling each other. It wasn't like everybody's maintaining a position or, they're like running a conga line. Never, not once did I see the issues we've seen in years past with these cars clumped together like they're stuck, like they're magnetized together, 4 or 5 deep, and just running on a rail. None of that. It's all gone. And it's making a huge difference just watching the. And could you imagine when you actually play? So I feel vindicated. So I love the AI, the way they ran different lines, all that stuff. Also, yeah, um, guys that decided to stay out, you blew by them, and you know what? That's realistic to a point. I just think that overall, it was a bit too easy. And when you saw the final rating at the end of the race, it was a 98, his speed rating, and he won that easily. Yes, that is my one big concern. But I get again, I'm gonna pin it on the all the things he checked off, and I think that a couple of changes here and there to the settings would take care of that. At least I hope it does. Hold on a second. All right. So I'm looking at the screen with the settings. The other thing that was just blew me away, right? First of all, the sound, the in-car shots, but then the stages. He chose this particular race just to show the day to night transitions. Yes, it's not gradual, right? That would be the ultimate, that after it would just slowly, gradually change throughout the race. But you know what? This is a great compromise. It's better than not being able to have it at all. After each stage, it felt like a different race. The sky was completely different, and each and every stage, it was beautiful, right? So you had the daytime, the dusk shot, the nighttime. It was great. Those of you guys who've been asking for this stuff, this is a good compromise. You should be happy with this. I think it was great. Um, it looked fantastic, man. One other little thing, it's just a real tiny detail, but I do think that the smoke effect when he's doing a burnout, whatever, I did notice that it's a little more dirty smoke, and I think that it should be more of a brighter white color. Like usually when we see burnouts or even a lot of tire smoke, it's really white. And now this year it looks there's some white, but there's some like dirtiness, grayish tone in mixed with it. Um, it doesn't look right to me. It's not game. It's not a big deal. It's not game breaking, but I do think it should be a little more white. If you disagree, let me know. Am I just wacky with that? But it seems to me it's normally a lot whiter. Not a big deal, but just something to point out. Um, I can't. I did look for more negative stuff. I can't find too much. I'm sure that once I play the game and I see the whole game from beginning to end, yeah, you're gonna find issues. Um, but in this particular video, yeah, other than I am concerned about, it seemed a little easy, but there's a lot of factors involved in the editing. I mean, in the aids. So just and he said himself, you're not going to be able to come in off of NASCAR Heat 3 and just jump in. There is a learning curve, and I love that. That's a really positive thing. Overall, just you know, watching him play, it felt more grounded. It just felt more realistic. The arcadiness of the whole series that we've seen before this year, it seems a lot more pushed a little more into the sim side. That's great. It just didn't feel like an arcadey type game to me. Yeah, I'm not saying it's super 100% realistic, but for a console game, this is as good as it gets. It really looks good, and I think, man, I haven't been this excited over a NASCAR game since 2011 when Technics came out with their first game, which was a disaster. But I'm just talking about my level of excitement in expecting the game because we had come off a 2-year layoff from EA, and then they just popped up and they're like, hey, we're doing NASCAR now. So it was exciting for that because we hadn't had a NASCAR game in a long time, and like I said before, the last couple of the EA games were pretty crappy. A lot of people were upset, and the overall consensus by fans was get somebody else in here, somebody else make these games, and so I was really excited for that, and it turned out that for the most part, the Eutechnics experiment was a disaster. But we're finally back in a good place. Um, this looks really good, and I can't wait to play it. I wish I had an early copy of the game so I could just play the hell out of it and then do an early review. I mean, the best thing would be to have a review like the day before the game releases, right? Because that's when people are most interested in knowing what this game is. But unfortunately, that's not the reality. And those of you who are going to hold off for a couple of weeks maybe and just see what the community thinks, I'll do the best I can to give you, my honest opinion of the game. And, I can't do this in 3 or 4 days. Other guys do it. Maybe they're able to spend a lot more time on it. I work full time and I don't have a lot of spare time. So for me to properly get a good sense of the game, it's going to take at least maybe 2 weeks. I don't know. It really depends on how much time I'm able to spend on the game. But I don't want to rush out something and give you a review and not be thorough. Again, I'm not the only one who's going to be doing it. So yeah, get a consensus. Don't just listen to one person's point of view on the game. But I do think anybody that buys the game this year is going to be pleasantly surprised. It's just too much here not to expect it to be another huge step forward. When we first got the news of this game and they started listing off all the details, yeah, I said it looked like NASCAR Heat 3 2.0, pretty much last year's game, not a lot of new stuff, but improved gameplay mechanics. And it wasn't like I was bashing them. I just said that realistically, it was, gameplay mechanics. That's where the improvements were, but it was pretty much the same as last year. And I couldn't be more wrong. I am glad to be wrong. This is nothing like last year's game. So I'm glad I was wrong about that. And the future looks bright because even with all of this positivity, there's still a lot that can be done to these games and a couple of things that have to be done, right? So when I do my game review, I'm also gonna throw in my suggestions for the next game. You got to get that stuff out there right away. So hopefully they start hearing about these things and saying, hey, we got to start addressing this stuff. Uh, Everybody wants it. So those are my thoughts on today's gameplay video. I'm really, really stoked about it. One other thing still, and I know, Jeff Faviano did say he was going to try to get us some information about the statistics. Um, So I do look forward to that, but we didn't really get to see anything about that. I don't think he's had enough time on the game. Like the stats would be part of career mode, so you would have to actually spend a lot of time on it. So it's going to be difficult to actually show the stats in any depth unless 704 themselves or maybe Zane, releases something. I know we're starting to get nitpicky about that, but that is important. I would like to see it, but I'm not really that concerned. I am confident that it is better this year. Um, and one last thing. The in the menu where they go to the custom setups, it's exactly like last year, and that's a good decision as well. There's no point in restructuring that. It works. We know how. I mean, you pretty much know the layout and understand what changes. There's no point in re-scrambling that just for the sake of changing it because we're kind of used to that, which is good. On the other hand, I do want these guys to, at some point, and hopefully connect that with presentation in the future, get us a system where you are actually involved with uh, the setup of the cars. And we're not car engineers, right? So there's a disconnect there still. Most of us just get our setups from other people online. Um, it's a tedious process. So if you can ever get that to the point where it's part of the game, it's just organic and maybe interacting with your crew chief or your car engineer during practice, and you can sort of make complaints and all that stuff. I'll talk more about that when I do my review and stuff like that as a suggestion. I think that's another huge innovation, step in innovation that they can really try to get done because there is a disconnect for an average player or even a guy like me who is hardcore NASCAR. I am mechanically inclined, so I'm not a dummy, but this stuff is still above my head. It's a lot of it's very difficult to understand, and I don't think going online and getting setups off other people, it just doesn't feel, there's no sense of accomplishment. But to have it be part of the game where somehow the game guides you and helps you come up with your own custom setup based on your complaints of the car or what you want, what you need, uh, that's to me a very innovative thing that these guys should consider doing. And there isn't anything I don't think they can't do. These guys have shown ability. Everything they touch, they make better. And that's what I've noticed about these guys and year after year and just making these games better and better. Their biggest issue is having enough time and resources to do what they need to do. And that's why there's a limit to what we can get every year. But if they spend time on something, they always make it better. That's a really, really big deal, as a developer. So those are my thoughts. I'm curious to know what you guys think. And I'm putting the link to the video in the description box. So I'll see you guys around. I look forward to your comments.